All right, welcome. Today we're going to look at an extension of what we're doing yesterday, which is factoring out trinomials. So in this case, we're going to have something a little different. So before we were doing things like x squared minus 6x minus 16, what we're going to do today is we're going to add in another term. That piece in front of the x squared is going to be added in. So that's a coefficient in front of our x squared. In this case, in our first one here, it's 2x minus 11x, or 2x squared minus 11x plus 5. What we do is we start out exactly the same way. We first start out by looking at our last numbers. We still have our plus 5, so our factors of 5 are 1 and 5, and only those two. So what that means is that we do have our x and our 5 and our x and our 1, except that now we've got to figure out how do we get 2x squared. So just like how our plus 5 comes from our last, our 1 and our 5, this 2x squared has to come from our first. So that means that we have to have a 2 and a 1, because 2x times 1x is going to have to be somewhere in this. So start out by looking at, I need to get 11. So you can try however you want it. So let's say we put a 2 here and a 1 here. And then again, we know we have a plus for our signs. That means we either have plus plus or minus minus. But we have a negative here, so that means we have minus minus. So now the thing to do is look at, we're going to FOIL it back out to check. Really, really importantly, because it's going to really change things. So FOILing back out. First, multiply together. 2x times 1x is 2x squared. That's our first term. It's important to get that. Our outers would be a negative 2x. That's the 2x and the negative 1. Our inners would be a negative 5x. And our lasts would be the plus 5. So combining our like terms in the middle, we have 2x squared minus 7x plus 5. Now that didn't work because our negative 7x doesn't match up with our original negative 11x. So it means we have to change some things. So we have to go back and rework this. So I'm going to undo this so you can kind of get rid of some of these steps. All right, so the things that we can change. You can change the signs. But in this case, we know it's a minus minus, so we're not going to change the signs. We can change placement of numbers. So for instance, we can switch around the 1 and the 5, so that it's a 1 here and a 5 here. Now that may not seem like a big deal, but what happens, this makes this 2x and the 5x opposite each other. If they're in the same set of parentheses, like both on the left-hand side, they never get multiplied. But if they're on opposite sides, they do get multiplied. So that's going to give us a bigger number because 2 times 5 is a bigger number. So let's try this again. So we got first. So we've got 2x squared. Again, important to get. Our outers, we now have a negative 10x. Our inners, we now have a negative 1x. And our last, we have plus 5. So now combining these two in the middle, we get 2x squared minus 11x plus 5. Which is what we wanted. So that's right. So there's our correct factorization of 2x squared minus 11x plus 5. Look at the next one. All right. So 5n squared plus 2n minus 3. Again, the negative 3, so that means we've got a 1 and a 3 for our factors of that. And only those two. So that means we're going to have to use those. We've got an n and an n and a 1 and a 3. And then we've got this 5 out front. So we know we have to have 5. And the factors of 5 are only 1 and 5. Now I've got to pick placement. So now you can kind of be strategic about this. For instance, I would never choose to put the 5 here and the 1 there. Because when you do your outers, you're going to get a 15n. We only need a 2, a plus 2. So having a 15n is a little big. So we have to try and do something else. So let's undo our 1 and our 5. And try to place it somewhere else. So if I put my 5 here and my 1 there, now my 1n will be multiplied by my 3, which will give me 3. My 1 will be multiplied by my 5n to get me a 5. So I'm going to look at signs. All right, so we want It's going to be a positive 2n, and we've got a minus 3, so it's either going to be plus minus or minus plus, one of those two. It's going to be a positive 2n. Now, the biggest one we're going to have is this inside, 5n times 1. So I want that to be positive. And I want this one to be minus, because 1n times the negative 3 is going to give me my 1. So all these kinds of things are going to come with time. It does take some rationalization. You have to kind of logically figure out what's going to work and where it's going to work. So let's now FOIL this out. Our first 5n squared, that's what we wanted, so that's good. Our outers is a negative 3n. Our inners is a positive 5n. And our last is negative 3. So now combining like terms, 5n squared plus 2n minus 3. Good. That's what we wanted. All right, let's try that one. We're actually going to skip those, and we're going to try this one up here. So 12x squared plus 4x minus 8. All right. So first, let me get rid of this a little bit down here. Looking at the factors of 8. So 1, 2, 4, and 8. That's one of the pieces we have. So we know we're going to have an x, and something in there. So it's going to be tricky because we've got factors of, and we don't know which one we're going to use. The 4 is a pretty small number, so I'm guessing we're probably going to use 4 and 2. I'm going to put a 4 here and a 2 here. Remember, this is just going to be a guess, so you might not always get it right. You may have to try again. And now we look at factors of 12 to put up front. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. So now here's where some real strategy comes in. Which ones do you pick? So you want a difference of 4. 4 is pretty small, so you're probably going to want to pick the ones that are in the center, so 3 and 4. So let's try that out. So let's put a 3 here and a 4 there. And it's a minus at the end. So that means either we're going to be positive minus or minus plus. And we have to figure out which direction we want to go in. So let's put, I don't know, let's put a plus minus. See what happens. Okay. So first, let's multiply together. So it's 4x times 3x is 12x squared. Outers, 4x times negative 4 is negative 16. Sorry, my square here. Negative 16x. Inners, 2 times 3x gives me a positive 6x. And my last is a negative 8. All right. So now combining like terms, 12x squared minus 10x minus 8. That's not what I wanted. So I got to change something around. I got to move something around. One thing to notice, you can figure out it's not the signs. So you can't change the plus and minus around. It doesn't matter. That's not going to make a difference. You got to change numbers somewhere. Because you need numbers that are 4 apart. Negative 16 and 6 are never going to be 4 apart. So I can get rid of that. It's not going to be the sign. So I got to change numbers. The last thing I added in was the 3 and the 4. So let's try that. Let's try moving those around. So move the 3 and the 4 around. So there's the 4. Do this. 3 and 4. So now I'll multiply it out again. So 3x times 4x, there's this 12x squared, so that's good. Our outers would be a negative 12x. Our inners would be a positive 8x. And our last would be our negative 8. So combining like terms, 12x squared minus 4x minus 8. Minus 8. Not what we wanted, because we've got a minus 4x. So we've got a minus 4x, and we wanted a positive 4x. Here's where you can change the sign. Because you still have the right number. You still have 4 and 4, but you have the wrong symbol. So all you really need to do is try and get this to be a positive and that to be a negative, and you'll change it around. So what we're going to do is we can just switch this to a plus, this to a minus, and it should give us the right answer. So let's just check one more time, just to make sure. All right, so first, 12x squared. Outers, positive 12x. inners is negative 8x, and last, negative 8. So combining like terms, 12x squared plus 4x minus 8. And that gives us what we want. So our correct factorization is right here. Alright? These are going to take time. They are going to take for you to play with the numbers until you get what's right. You will eventually be able to figure out on your own a little bit better what they're going to look like. What I want you to do is go ahead and pause the video and try the next one on your own. Alright. So next one, we've got 2, so that's pretty easy. You got a 1 and 2 for your factors. So we know we're going to have x, and 1 and 2. Those are that's a good one to have. We know we're going to have a plus minus or a minus plus because this is a negative. And we know we want the bigger number to be the negative because it's negative x. So we look at factors of 6. So 1, 2, 3, and 6. The negative x is pretty small, so I'm going to pick these smaller numbers. And I'm looking for a negative 1. So what I want to do is I'm going to put this 2 here, because that's going to give me a 4 with my inners. I'm going to put a 3 here, because that's going to give me a 3 with my outers, so 4 and 1. Those are that far apart, so that's good. I'm going to put my minus here, my plus here. So filling that out, 6x squared. My outers is going to be a plus 3x. My inners will be negative 4x. And my lasts will be a negative 2. So combine like terms, 6x squared minus x minus 2. All right, that type of process comes with time. It's going to take a little bit. But you will get there where you'll see those factors and see everything, and it'll kind of make sense to you. But it takes practice, so don't be frustrated right away. All right, we'll see you tomorrow in class.